Before the vesting, the church didn't look like this, and whenever I come in, actually, it makes me smile because it is now so beautiful and bright, and where there was damp, it's all gone, it's been eradicated. Where there were bits of plaster about to fall off the walls, I don't stand at the front in fear that something will fall off on someone's head any longer. Everything just sings, really, to the beauty of the church. So it's quite changed.
Yeah, churches are vested in the CCT where they have been closed for regular public worship by the Church of England, but are of such a quality, architecturally, historically or archaeologically, that they are, if you like, too good for a new use to be introduced into them. Criteria in the legislation is that they are of such importance to the nation and the Church of England that they should be preserved by the CCT. The Church in the Field was vested in the CCT, I think, for three main reasons. Firstly, its historic significance. It was built in roughly 1668, which was a period when the building of churches in England was rare. We'd come through the Commonwealth period and the restoration of the monarchy had just taken place, and in that period immediately beforehand there hadn't been many churches built. Secondly, described by Pevsner as one of the most instructive cases of early Gothicism in England. So architecturally it's significant as a fine but small-scale version of a perpendicular Gothic church. And as such, thirdly, it has a fine set of late 17th century furnishings in the Laudian tradition. I was involved in meetings with Meriel. We both shared a love for this building.
So I've been working with Adrian Browning for the last year. We've been liaising about the different issues for this church. So looking at the parish, looking at their capacity, how much they love the church, but mainly looking at the repair, because I'm here to find out what the costs and the different repairs that we might need to do to this church, and then to feed that through to Adrian so that the church commissioners can make an informed decision about vesting the church with us. So first of all, we get a condition survey from an architect, and then we look at getting a structural survey from an engineer, and then there are various other reports that we need, like asbestos and ecology, and in most cases we're looking at bats, but we were really lucky with this church that we've got barn owls. Discovering new things about the church. And I think this is all embodied in the stained glass in the east window, because it looks like that it's all a sort of very early Renaissance style, but then when you actually get close and you look at the bottom of the stained glass window, you can see that there's a very late medieval style sort of fragments in the base of the window. And we think that what happened is when the church was attacked in the Civil War, the earlier window that had been commissioned by Sir Edward Hext, who commissioned the whole building, got smashed. But in order to show the continuity, when Stall, his grandson, came to rebuild it, he included these fragments of glass. So it was just really exciting to find what a fascinating stained glass window it was and how it encapsulated the church's history.
My role in the vesting of the church in the field has been to oversee the work from inception to completion, really. So it's starting with inspections of the various aspects of the building, understanding its nature, its materials and its repair needs, to specify what needs to be done, and then to oversee the commissioning of specialist contractors and subcontractors to make sure the repair work's undertaken in the right way.
Really important to work with specialists like Simon Boyd. We just couldn't achieve a really high quality repair without having a clockmaker, without having a stonemason, without having a specialist glazier. All of these skills I mean, Somerset and Devon and Dorset just have the most fantastic craftspeople in them, and in order to do the best for the church, we have to use these traditional craft skills that were used to build the church 500 years ago.
The Church in the Field clock is a lovely iron-framed movement with train bars like this. First problem to overcome was actually getting it out of the tower. Fortunately, the frame is bolted together, because even once I'd taken all the wheels out of it, you still couldn't get the frame down the stairs because the spiral staircase is so tight. So I took the frame into 2 parts and wore it almost as I walked down the stairs with it. Then when I got it back to the workshop, it was all very gentle cleaning so as to preserve all the original finishes and any marks, maker's marks and cutting marks, so as not to lose any of its history. One of the winding squares had got very badly worn, and so that needed gentle heating and very careful bending and straightening, and it ended up being quite true, and you wouldn't know it had been bent now. It is a lovely early clock. Restoration, you are more likely to replace bits that are broken, whereas with conservation, you keep as much as you can. The thing also with conservation is you will leave old repairs. With restoration, you would repair it. If you can do a better repair that would make it look more authentic, original, you would redo that repair. With the conservation, you leave the repair as it is because that's part of its history. I'm very proud of my work. The clock is in as good as condition as it can be. All the original parts that were there when I took it on are still there.
There are still services in the church, and there will be 6. 6 in a year, that's our allotted portion. So we have to decide when to have them, and we'll have them through the spring, from Easter onwards, and just into the autumn. There were some weddings just briefly before the vesting process, and I think it's even more magnificent now. If people wanted to be married here, yes, they can. During the vesting process, a lot of local people did actually express much more of an interest in the church, and particularly when the work was going on, the physical work on the building. We had a scaffold tour, which CCT organised, and a good number of people came and braved the scaffold. I don't have a head for height, so that didn't include me, but I helped make the coffee at the end and talk to people. So yes, there's been a great deal of interest through the vesting process, and actually interest in the CCT itself as an organisation, a more focused understanding of what the CCT does. I do think the Church's Conservation Trust has done an absolutely splendid job here. You only have to look around to see how much has been achieved. And I think there's also been a great deal of goodwill towards the Church's Conservation Trust, which were probably just seen as a sort of alien organisation somewhere. There's actually now concrete, well, there's not much concrete actually, but concrete good work that has been done. So yeah, there's been a great benefit to the vesting.
I live in the house in the field with the church, and I'm a farmer's wife. My husband has been farming here for his family for about 100 years, and I'm involved with the Church in the Field Charities Association, where we're sort of friends of the church and we raise money to help with the little pieces that we can with the church. I think the Church Conservation Trust has done an amazing job. I said we are very privileged that they took this on, because we did appreciate there was a lot of other churches that needed help as well as we did. The church, may had to have been closed if we couldn't have had the CCT, simply because it's on private land and therefore makes it more difficult for general public to visit if it's not a safe building, and it's now been made safe and being made a place where people feel very comfortable. Yeah. People can support the church many ways. We've got our own Church in the Field website, so you can look up to see what's going on in the church and how you could help. We've got a Just Giving page, which again you can get from that website. So even if you're just doing your ordinary shopping, you can still help the church without going to any extra trouble. Obviously we've got a donation box in the church, so if people visit they can put some money in. And when I send out the parish newsletters to say what we've got on in the church, people can volunteer to help with that or give donations towards that. But every bit helps to do the smaller things that we can manage.